Oh, hello everyone. Hi. Um, I'm gonna do this. Aha! We got it. Alright. Anyways, you guys know what time it is? Um, we are on chapter 9. I'm loving this so much right now because I get to read this to you guys, and I am in the process of doing another chapter, so it's good. It's amazing, and I love it. So, anyways, here we go. Chapter 9. Um, we're just gonna dive right into it, guys. All right. Chapter 9 is called "What the Heart Wants." Jack got back home, but he wasn't alone. Not even when he had walked in through the door and set his bags down. He was met with a hey baby, as Riley was barely walking in behind him. All he could do was have a small smile and reply what. He would have responded the same thing back, but his mind was elsewhere. Not to mention, he knew when Riley was saying it to say it, and when she was questioning him about something. She had set the bags down as she now was fully in the door. Nothing. He had the polite smile again before he responded, "Okay then, follow me." He motioned her into his 3-bedroom apartment and showed her everything she needed to know. Even as he went through the apartment with her, his voice would be what drowned out the silence that seemed to linger. A silence that carried ever since they left Mark's place. And even as they got settled in, Riley would try to talk, even if it was to get rid of this overwhelming silence. Still, Jack would be too busy trapped inside of his own mind. He was stuck replaying the last few days that he was at Mark's place. He was stuck living with hearing Bree's last words to him, plus whatever letter she had written to him. He hadn't gotten the time to read it, plus he knew he had to go settle in and go make more YouTube videos. But right now, the only thing he could think of was Bree, and what she was doing at that very second. Bree hadn't left her room since the day Jack and Riley left. She constantly had Mark knocking at her door every 4 hours, checking to see if she was okay. But needless to say, she was always scribbling in her journal. She was always thinking, why take her? Why take her and not me? Am I not good enough for him? Am I not his type? Am I just friend zoned? Merely that's not all I am to him, right? Right? Days on end, she questioned herself several times. She'd draw the hearts in her journal with initials and his combined just to take a black marker to it to scribble it out. Eventually, she threw her journal across the room, causing Mark to break down the door. Once, it caused a loud bang. What the hell, Bree? What's going on? She eventually threw her hands up and shrugged it off. Nothing, alright? Just dropped my journal is all. It caused the snow globe on the shelf to fall. Mark knew better. Plus, he could see the black scribbles on the page. So he knew she was completely unhappy. He would volunteer anything to get her to come out and experience something, but she always turned it down and stayed in her room to watch old movies. Jack was now finally adjusting back into his lifestyle and eventually started playing games again. He missed entertaining and having fun with his fans, quotations. But even as he went to record, He couldn't help but notice that his desktop was set to the picture of him, Mark, Wade, Bob, and Bree at PAX. It seemed ages ago now, but he couldn't help but smile as he thumbed over Bree's beautiful smile. He missed her, that was the honest truth. But even as he missed her, he yearned for her, just as much as she did him. And yet, even when he wanted his best friend, he couldn't get over the fact that her last words were, "I hate you." His eyes drifted down and he shook his head. He thought to himself, does she really hate me? He knew that couldn't be the case. He knew that she was angry, that his secret was the fact that when he was going back to Ireland, Riley was moving in with him. He wanted to believe that was what anchored her, but does that mean she loves him? He couldn't answer that. He didn't want to know the answer to that. He didn't want to know the answer to that. So with that note, he started his record session with a clap. 3, 2, 1. His phone buzzed and he rolled his eyes because he saw that Riley was messaging him from down the stairs. Jesus, woman. He would never get any videos done with her in the house. Bree was cuddled up in a blanket. It was mid-afternoon and she didn't realize that she slept pretty much all day, but there was a bang coming from the door as she grumbled at it. "Go away, Mark. I don't want any food. I don't want to play any games, watch any movies. I don't want to go out drinking." There was silence from the other side until the door was cracked open. Bree's head popped up and looked over. "Oh my God, Wade! What are you doing here?" Mark stood behind Wade and Bob was caught to the side. "Oh, I see. She answers you, but not me." She glared at Mark. "Shut up, Mark." Mark made a face. "Or what? You'll hate me too?" That's when the tears came running down her face. I didn't mean it. I swear." She began stammering over her words, and all three men stared at her until Wade and Mark began to try to calm her down. Jack knows that. He knows. You guys are best friends. She growled at those words, and Mark was tempted to say she loved him. Then again, she had to be the one to admit it, and he knew that. "Why don't you escape Jack? It'll make you feel better. I'm sure he would feel better too." Wade suggested that they escaped, and Mark wanted to make sure they could do that. So Mark put Bree in his little studio room, turned everything on for her. He left as he heard the little tone for Jack to pick up. Jack was going to message Riley back when all of a sudden his Skype went off. It came from Mark, and at first he wasn't going to answer, but he did. "Hey, Bree? What are you... Why? Is everything okay there?" She managed to clean up her face between the time it called him to the time he picked up. She managed a soft smile and nodded. "Yeah, everything's fine." He shook his head and leaned back in his chair. "So why are you calling me? I thought you hated me." She couldn't get words out. It was like the life was being sucked out of her. She tried hard to say no, but she could only close her eyes. Even as she closed them, she was still forced to look into those oceanic eyes of his. "Well," she opened her eyes and spoke. I don't hate you. He was relieved at those words. I am mad at the situation is all. I could have came with you, and yet I didn't. What if I wanted to experience Ireland? He cut her off for a short second. No, you don't. She shook her head, and he chuckled as she rolled her eyes at him. It doesn't matter. What if I just... There was a long pause as she tried to find the right way to put this without being obvious, but the way it came out was the most obvious choice. And she knew it. Just what? He questioned, as he looked at the person that meant the most to him right at that second. What if I just wanted to be with you? He smiled cheekily, as she had to make a quick save. Not like that. He laughed as he whispered. You are always with me, no matter what. Hell, you have me in your dreams. And even I and you know it. Miles can do damage, but I don't think it can with us. We will always be this close. He put his hand up to show his fingers had been crossed together, and in some way, Bree believed he was right. He had to be right. They talked for another hour and tried to patch the hole that was eating them both alive. The distance, however, only made them realize that they are what their hearts want, and they can't deny it for long. At least Bree knows she can't deny that the way she feels is love. But how do you tell your best friend that you are in love with them? After Jack got off Skype with Bree, he met with a very angry Riley, and his schedule for videos just got a bit more complicated. Meanwhile, Wade, Mark, and Bob were planning something with Bree. That's the end of chapter 9. Now we're going to chapter 10. This is Like You Do. It's called Like You Do. I named this one for the song Love Me Like You Do. So this is where we're at with this one. Got that really peaceful melody going on in the background, which is nice. Alright, so here we go. Next part. Within the weeks that passed, Jack would be dealing with a very jealous Riley. She'd always be complaining about how so little time goes into their relationship. There would always be a disturbance going on in the morning in his apartment. And normally the neighbors never complained, but they'd complain as soon as Riley would be shouting and throwing dishes across the kitchen. Jack would try to disconnect and not argue with the situation. He'd try to please her with giving her what she wanted, even if it wasn't what he wanted or needed to do at the time. He still was content and trying to make her happy, but it would never be good enough. When Jack was done giving her the attention she needed, he'd go straight to his setup and begin his work. He'd always message Mark and see how he and Bree were doing, and then sometimes he'd message Bree. It was relaxing to him, and it made him happy just to hear her say Sean. He missed that. He missed her, as she missed him. That's why when the weeks began to pass, the more jealous Riley would become, the more time Jack had to put into making the whole universe happy, the more stressed he became. And that's when the unthinkable happened. His phone buzzed, and it was a number that read from Dublin. He looked at it strangely before answering hello. He waited and all of a sudden heard his whole world on the other side. "Hey, Jacka boy, come get me, loser. I just got off the airplane." He chuckled lightly before acting stupid. "Bree, is that you?" She face-palmed her forehead and nodded. How many Brees do you know?" He took a long time to answer. A few." She laughed as she looked down at her bags. "Alright, smartass, just come get me so I don't get lost." He looked down at his wallet. "Alright, but it'll take me a bit to get there. Just wait at the airport near the front," she whispered. "Alright, I'll see you in a few." Now, Jack didn't know how to drive. And he knew he didn't want Riley to drive him. So he figured he'd walk to the train station and take the train there. But first the bus. The things I do for the people. He chuckled at his thought as he grabbed his wallet in his hoodie. He slid his shoes on along with his beanie. He was about ready to walk out the door when Riley had stopped him. "Where do you think you are going?" He pursed his lips together and took a deep breath. "Picking up Bree. She's here in Ireland." Riley was now wearing the face of being shocked and yet mad. "Well, don't come back with her. I don't want to see her." Jack protested against her wording, and he was now feeling his own blood boiling, but he refused to argue with her. And then he left without saying another word. A few hours later, and Jack was a tad late, but there he was in plain sight for Bree to see. He smiled as he saw her standing there, and when she came running, he sped up his walking towards her. Their bodies met somewhere in the middle, and their arms came wrapping around each other. She missed the way he smelled, as her face buried into the crook of his neck. All he could do was chuckle at her. "I missed you too." She pulled back and looked at him. Oh, sorry." He chuckled again and waved his hand at her. "Oh, it's alright. Do you have everything?" She nodded with a grin. "Doubt I do, Mr. Septic Eye." He looked at her with a playful glare. "Don't make me kick you, Miss Bassett." She giggled and nudged him. "You wouldn't try it." He put an arm around her shoulder and nodded. "Yeah, you're right, but still." His facial expression changed before he looked down at his feet. "You know we have a train ride and bus to catch, so let's get going. Besides, we don't want to be late." Her face was puzzled as what he meant by that, but she didn't ask about it. Instead, she just nodded and walked along beside him. They laughed and talked about small things until they would reach the train station. By this time, they would sit their bags down in front of them and take their seats. Bree would take the window seat, and Jack would lean in every once in a while to show her something interesting. After an hour or so, she now noticed that Jack was holding on to his own luggage. She looked at him with a face that said, "What are we doing?" And finally she opened her mouth and said something. Anything to give away his plans. "Sean, I can't wait to see the apartment." She didn't mention Riley, because in her heart and mind she was still angry at her. But the anger would only increase after Jack's words had formed. "We aren't going there. We're going to my old place." She looked at him, confused for a second. The cabin out in the middle of nowhere?" She questioned before speaking again. "Why is that?" He looked at her and sighed. She knew it had to be Riley's doing. But Jack, being sweet as he tried to be, tried to avoid. That was the reason. My parents want to meet you. Hell, my mom is making a home-cooked meal. My sisters and my brothers will even be there, so it'll be fun. Bree smiled at the idea that his parents wanted to meet her, but she still couldn't believe the words that were coming from her lips. That's amazing, and I can't wait to see Riley too. She figured if she brought she figured if she brought Riley up, that Jack would say something, anything about her. To her amazement, he actually spoke of her. She's not coming. Bree nodded. Why not? Jack chuckled lightly before whispering to her, Mom doesn't like her that much, and I'm pissed at her anyways, 'cause she doesn't want to see you, let alone have you in my home. My home! Can you believe that? Bree took a big inhale and then exhaled calmly. Oh, I believe it. But it's your place, not hers, and I could say some things, but I'll try and behave. She nudged him playfully. Besides, we are going to have some fun, now aren't we? He grinned cheekily and nodded his head. Hell yeah, we are. A train and a bus ride out to the middle of nowhere seemed to last forever. But when they got to his old place, his brother met him out in front of the old cabin. It seemed so surreal for Bree to be standing in front of a place that she only saw in videos. Jack's old videos were shot out here. And there she was, almost afraid to move. Almost as if she did move, it would all disappear in front of her eyes. Her attention was soon snapped back to Jack, who was introducing his brother to Bree. There was small talk somewhere in between the meeting that Bree didn't really catch. She was too busy soaking in everything else. Then eventually her focus came in clearer once Jack led her inside the cabin. This is where I started. She nodded and put her bags down. Yeah, I know. You forget that I am a Bostronio. He chuckled lightly and put down his bags as well. Yeah, I almost forget. Anyways, my brother is letting us stay in here, and he's going to take his old bedroom in my parents' house. She smiled lightly and murmured, Okay, that was nice of him. When they got settled into his old place, his mom came knocking. Jackie, Jacka boy. He came running to the door. Hey, Mom. She made her way through the door and kissed her son's cheek. Just wanted to make sure you got home safely. He nodded to his mother. That we did, safe and sound. Bree came walking in about halfway through the conversation. Hey, Sean. Oh. She waved towards his mom. Hi. Jack's mother came walking over and gripped Bree's hands. Oh, so you must be Bree. Jackie, you didn't tell me how pretty she was. No wonder you two are best friends. Bree looked over towards him with a grin before nodding. Of course, he's my best friend. And you must be the septic guy, Mom. She playfully grinned as she stood there while holding her hands. Well, of course, darling. Either you can call me Mom or just Barbara. Bree nodded as she looked at Jack. Okay, well, I will definitely remember that. Barbara smiled and nodded. Good. Now you kids better be washed up and ready for dinner. It'll be done here in 10. Jack stepped in as he grabbed Bree's arm. We will, Mom. They watched his mother leave as she gushed over having her kids home. Jack's attention was now turned to Bree's, who was crossing her arms with a grin. I think your mother likes me. Too bad for Riley, huh? Jack wanted to laugh because he was thinking the same, but he knew he had to be a little defensive. All right, that's enough here. Jack handed her his gray hoodie. Wear this because it's going to get cold later. Bree took it and nodded. All right, all right. They eventually got dressed for warmth as they would be heading outside to go to the main house. It was quiet in the yard, but when they got inside his parents' house, it was loud. Possibly louder than what Jack gets when he records. But Bree actually didn't mind it. His sisters were arguing over something on the TV. His brothers were messing around while his mother and father spoke of no other than their kids. Bree's attention now turned back to Jack, who was receiving kisses from an adorable dog, Gizmo. Bree knelt down and was petting her too with a smile. Bree was hoping this wasn't a dream, because this was a wonderful dream, if it was. As the attention faded away from Gizmo, the attention now rested on the family and dinner. Barbara called everyone to the table, and then that's when everyone was quiet, except for the occasional topics that were turned to Bree. But the factor for most of it was how Jack and Bree met. With every story told at the table, his father brought up Riley. How's that girl of yours, Sean? Jack took a long sip of his tea before Barbara cut in. That girl. That Riley girl. I don't like her so much. She's not meant for my Jackie. Now, Bree's a nice girl. I like you, darling. You were made just right for my Jackie. Bree almost choked on her food as she quickly grabbed the napkin and nodded. She was going to get the words out that they didn't like each other like that, but Jack spoke first. Mom, please don't. We are just friends. The pain in Bree's eyes showed to his father as she quickly agreed. Yeah, just friends, she managed to mumble out. Eventually, everyone had said to Jack, we just want you happy. And shortly after a conversation had lasted for an hour, everyone excused themselves, and Bree did offer to help clean up, but Septiceye Mom just refused and told her to go find Jack, which Bree naturally did. She stood at the doorway watching Jack play with Gizmo and wrestle around with his brothers. She smiled as she could count so many reasons why she loved him. Her thoughts, however, were interrupted by a voice. My son is pretty lucky to have a girl like you in his life. She looked over and saw Jack's dad standing beside her. Thank you, I think. He waved his hand and whispered, Listen, sweetheart. I see the way you look at him, the way he looks at you. There's love there. Though you may never say it, you both say it constantly with the look in your eye. Don't be afraid of each other. Embrace each other. He smiled and patted her back. I'd be happy to call you my daughter-in-law one day. He walked away with those words ringing in Bree's ears, and she didn't know what to think or even say. But she went back to watching Jack as she kept questioning herself. Does he really love me? She headed inside to his cabin with those thoughts. A few moments later, Jack followed her inside. Hey, I'm sorry for leaving you hanging like that, she quickly protested. No. It's okay. I was enjoying myself watching you out there. He sat down beside her and noticed her journal was out. Well, you didn't have to stop watching. We could have went for a walk or something. She shook her head. No, that's okay. I'm good. He leaned over and grabbed her journal. All right, what are you writing now? Your mood is off and I don't like it. She retrieved her journal from his hands and shook her head again. I'm not off. I am fine. I think you are delusional, sir. He chuckled at her words and shrugged. She stood up to go turn music on. It can't be quiet in here. I hate the silence. He nodded as he stood up quickly and gripped her hand, then her hip. He started to sway with her. I know, so let's not be quiet. Enjoy the music that's playing. She was gonna say something, but stayed quiet as she glanced up into his eyes. Songs would end, but their bodies never stopped swaying. It didn't matter what type of song was playing, they held on to each other. It had been so long that they did anything together, and in this moment, they were dancing to their own song. They hadn't realized that they held each other so tight for so long. Not even the questions that roamed Bree's mind had put an end to it. It wasn't until a yawn escaped Bree's lips that Jack pulled back to look at her. We should sleep. We got a big day of exploring ahead of us. A smile formed as she agreed. Alright, to bed it is. She followed Jack into a guest room where a roll-out bed would be waiting. She crawled into it, and then Jack took his place down the hall and in the other bed. 3 in the morning, and Bree was trying to literally climb inside the bed to find warmth, but she couldn't. She got up and let her bare feet hit the cold floor. She knocked on the door of Jack's room. She didn't get an answer, so she pushed it open just a tad before running and climbing into the bed. Jack instantly moved over some and wrapped his arm around her midsection. He sleepily mumbled into her ear, I was wondering how long it would take for you to climb in with me, my boss said. She playfully squeezed his hand. I'm sorry that it took so long. He buried his head into the side of her. Next time, don't take so long, she whispered as she rolled over to face him. I won't, I promise. He managed sleepily to say good. She could tell he was half asleep, not fully awake. To make sure, she said his name quietly. Sean. In his mind, he thought she was having a nightmare, so he held her closer. It's okay, I got you. She smiled when she realized that was his thing with her. So she managed to say it again. Sean. He didn't say anything this time, because he knew she'd be okay. When Bree didn't get a response, she quickly said Jack. He was too tired to say anything, but he could still hear her. With no response, Bree leaned in closer. She kissed the edge of his lips, and with a tiny whisper, she said, I love you. She closed her eyes soon after and fell asleep, but to Jack, he kept screaming his words over and over in his head. I love you too. but they didn't come, only sweet slumber. And that's the end of chapter 10. So this is chapter 11, Bree is away. I really want to keep reading, but I'm not going to. We're going to end it on chapter 11, Bree is away, and then we will pick it up. And then the last video is going to be me reading 3 chapters instead of just the 2. And I will put another video up once the new chapter is out. So, yay. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. I'm sorry for fumbling over words, because it's pretty late and I'm tired and I have to get up like here in a few hours. So, yeah. Anyways, good night all, and I hope you enjoy your day. Bye.